What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another fantasy football video. Today, we are talking wide receiver busts, guys that you want to be avoiding in your 2025 fantasy football drafts. We are right in the thick of it. Football is just a couple weeks away. It is peak draft season. So, here we are going to be naming 12 wide receivers that I am avoiding at all costs in fantasy football drafts this season. And I would highly recommend that you do the same. We're going to start with three kind of ambiguous wide receiver rooms, guys that we don't really know what the situation is going to be. So I'm just staying away. And here are the first three teams, six guys that you should be avoiding at the wide receiver position. We're going to start off with some big guys, big names at the top. I will always say you cannot win your fantasy football leagues in the first round, but you sure can lose them. And that is my logic with a lot of these guys. We have one, two, three, four first round wide receivers that I believe that you should be avoiding in your fantasy football drafts. So we have a lot of guys to talk about. Number one is going to be CeeDee Lamb, going as the current wide receiver number 3. And we're going to go ahead and talk about George Pickens, currently going as wide receiver number 30 as well. Obviously, George Pickens was just traded to the Dallas Cowboys this past season. CeeDee Lamb, been there for a long time, had a bit of a roller coaster of a season last year, dealing with injuries of his own. Dak Prescott obviously getting knocked out about halfway through the year with injuries for the remainder of the season. So there's going to be a lot of question marks. Is George Pickens really that alpha wide receiver that everyone has made him out to be? I have been saying for years now that George Pickens is not that good of a wide receiver, yet the Cowboys think he is. And so with that in mind, if the Cowboys think he is, then people need to be thinking that he is good enough to take away volume from CeeDee Lamb. As a player who's a top 3 wide receiver in drafts right now, I don't want to be targeting someone with a top 3 wide receiver pick when they just added a supposed another alpha that everyone's been saying George Pickens is so good, he can make all these highlight reel catches. Well, if that's the case, then you better be avoiding CeeDee Lamb, because your logic doesn't make sense if you're drafting CeeDee Lamb inside the top 4 picks in fantasy this season. On top of that, people forget last season they'll always just say, oh, well, Dak got injured, so the Cowboys sucked. Dak was playing for several games to start the season and was absolutely terrible. Dak was terrible. The Cowboys were terrible. I don't think people realize that Dak is not the same player that he was a couple years ago in his prime when him and CeeDee broke out together and won people fantasy football championships. So CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, I personally don't believe that this wide receiver room is something that people should be targeting. I think that they are going to be worse of an offense than people make them out to be. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows like it was 2 years ago for Dak, CeeDee, the Cowboys, and George Pickens. And I just don't believe that George Pickens is as good of a football player as people say he is. So I'm not going to bother spending a top 30 wide receiver pick on a guy like George Pickens, who's going into a new system, working with a new quarterback. Again, you can use the same logic the other way. If CeeDee Lamb is this complete alpha who takes 160 targets, then you don't want to be drafting George Pickens in the 5th, 6th round of your fantasy football drafts. That doesn't make any sense. So that's wide receiver room number 1, the first 2 guys. Number 2 is going to be the LA Rams for obvious reasons. Matthew Stafford is knocked out. He is currently starting to practice again. I don't know. This guy has been banged up for his whole career, and he's one of the toughest guys in the league, so he's been okay. The Rams are obviously a really good offense. However, Puka, starting with Puka, he is made of glass. People do not understand how many injuries this guy has gone through. Going back to his college career, he's had all sorts of lower body injuries, he's played through injuries and not been as effective playing through injuries. He got put on IR last season. Stafford's hurt. Then they add Davante Adams. All of that for a player who is currently wide receiver number 4 in fantasy drafts. I'm not spending a mid-first round pick on a guy who gets hurt, whose quarterback is hurt, and who just had one of the best wide receivers of all time added right next to him. There's no way. There's no way that you can get me or any of my listeners who listen to me to draft Puka Nacua in the middle of the first round. It does not make any sense at all. Davante Adams, similar to George Pickens, going to a new system. On top of that, though, we have the age concern to worry about. I do believe that Adams has lost a step. What we saw last year in New York with the Jets is something of the product of Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers chemistry that they built for years and years. Aaron Rodgers just hyper targets Devontae Adams. I'm not saying that they won't do that again, but the Jets had zero run game. The Rams have Kyren Williams and a good offensive line. They are going to have a legit run game. And again, if they have Puka Nacua, who is this ultra elite wide receiver, I'm not going to target the wide receiver 2 on that team with an elite run game, with a hurt quarterback, as a freaking 35-year-old wide receiver in the 3rd or 4th round. I'm not going to do it. You cannot get me to do it. Rams wide receiver room, stay away. Dolphins wide receiver room is the final wide receiver room we're going to talk about that you should stay away as well. Tyreek Hill obviously is falling off an age cliff, okay? This guy went from the elite, best of the best. Last year, I had him ranked as my wide receiver 7 going into the season when he was going 1 or 2 in every single league, and I got called an absolute nutball for it. Tyreek Hill has fallen off. He is not as good anymore. I don't care that he's fast and quick and can run by everyone, because he is not getting utilized in the way that he should. Even if he's still talented enough to be great, the situation he's in, Tua at quarterback, Jalen Waddle alongside of him, Devon Achane, Mike McDaniel calling 18 checkdowns a game for Jonnu Smith last season and for Devon Achane is not something I want to be a part of. I understand Jonnu Smith is gone, but that is not enough of a reason. Like, think about that. If we're needing to make the excuse that Tyreek Hill is going to be great because a mediocre tight end is gone from this system now, what does that say about Tyreek Hill, you guys? Tyreek Hill cannot be this huge beneficiary because a mediocre tight end left their offense. That is crazy. I'm not drafting a fallen off Tyreek Hill who's had injury issues of his own and still is having injury issues. He hasn't been practicing in the late 2nd, early 3rd round. No way. Tyreek Hill, not only does he have injury concern, but Tua's injury concern completely correlates with Tyreek Hill. The injury risk is doubled given that Tua has had so many horrible injuries. Jalen Waddle is also someone you don't want to target. I have been saying to avoid Jalen Waddle for 2 or 3 years now, and not a single time since his elite year 2, 3, 4 years ago has he been good. He hasn't performed at ADP a single time, and this year is not going to be any different. He's still going inside the top 30, 32 wide receivers. He has not performed for that level, you guys. He does not deserve a 5th, 6th, 7th round draft pick. He is a clear number 2 behind Tyreek Hill. Their offense does not unleash the ball the way that they should. Ever since Devon Achane was found to be effective in the checkdown game, along with Jonnu Smith, they just don't throw the ball anymore. Jalen Waddle also cannot stay healthy, and Tua can't stay healthy. And even if you want to make the argument for one of these guys, that means you're going to need to be all in on that one and completely away from the other one, and I would rather just stay away from it altogether. So the Cowboys, the Rams, and the Dolphins, stay away from their wide receiver rooms. It's going to be way too up and down. The guys are way too risky. We got 1st and 2nd round picks going for those teams. There's no way you should be spending that draft capital on those guys. We got 2 more wide receivers in the 1st round that I am avoiding that we need to talk about. Number 1, I got it wrong last year. I'm the first one to say it. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, but Justin Jefferson is not someone you should be targeting with the number 2 wide receiver pick, a top 3 pick in fantasy this year. Absolutely no way. Number 1, I don't care if he has prime Tom Brady targeting him. If this dude has a hamstring injury going into the season, that is something you want to be avoiding, especially with a top 3 pick in fantasy football. But guess what? He does not have prime Tom Brady throwing to him. He has a basically rookie in J.J. McCarthy. Yes, I understand Kevin O'Connell is the quarterback whisperer. I am a Minnesota Vikings fan. I know that better than anybody. But Kevin O'Connell is not going to make J.J. McCarthy a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I'm hoping that he's average. I'm hoping he's slightly above average. But an average quarterback is not going to get Justin Jefferson to a top 3 fantasy football pick output with a hamstring injury. He might be good for the first couple weeks when Addison's out, but when Addison's back in, when Hawkinson's back in, we got trade talks that Thielen or some other veterans coming in. I know that he's the best wide receiver in football. I watch every single week rooting for him, but I'm telling you that a top 3 fantasy football pick for this guy is not worth the draft price, you guys. Neither is this guy. And this guy I've been staying away from ever since I called his breakout on the Houston Texans, and that is Nico Collins. Nico Collins, other than a large alpha target share volume, which I personally don't believe he'll have this season, but everyone else believes he'll have, doesn't have anything that we want in an elite fantasy football wide receiver. And he's going in the first round as the wide receiver 7. First of all, he's going into either his 7th or 6th season in the NFL, and he hasn't completed a single season. He has not played a full season. He gets injured every single year. Number 2, he doesn't have an elite quarterback. CJ Stroud is not an elite quarterback. And we're spending a wide receiver first-round draft pick on a guy that doesn't have an elite quarterback, and he's never finished a season. Number 3, the Texans aren't an elite offense. Number 4, their offensive line is absolutely terrible. Number 5, they got a new play caller. Number 6, they got rid of Stephon Diggs. They lost Tank Dell for the season. They added 2 rookies. They added Christian Kirk. There are so many new things going on. And to draft a guy in the first round as a top 7 wide receiver who's never finished a season is absolutely ridiculous. You cannot win your fantasy leagues in the first round, but you sure can lose them. And if you draft Nico Collins, he is going to lose you your league. This next guy, bit more boring, not going in the first round or 2, DJ Moore, wide receiver 20. They added Ben Johnson, of course, as head coach. Obviously, they drafted Luther Burden. They drafted Colston Loveland. They have Rome Odunze. This is an ambiguous wide receiver room yet again. So I'd rather just take a shot on the later guys like Rome Odunze or Colston Loveland. Like, why would I take the guy going in the top 20 when Ben Johnson is going to spread the ball around? He's going to get everyone involved. Caleb Williams has been terrible in his first year in the NFL, and I believe he's going to take a step up. But to draft a guy in the top 20 wide receivers when he could be the wide receiver 2, he could be the number 3 option on the offense. The quarterback could be terrible. They got a new situation going on. I'm not spending a top 20 wide receiver pick on DJ Moore. Next guy, this is going to be a hot take, but I'm going after the old guys, and this guy is going to finally reach his peak. Mr. Consistency is officially not going to hit the 1,000-yard receiving mark. Mike Evans going as the wide receiver 16 in fantasy drafts this season. Yes, I know Chris Godwin's out. Yes, I know Baker Mayfield was incredible last season. Yes, I love the Buccaneers as a team, but Mike Evans is going to fall off the cliff this year. This is finally the year. It took essentially them drawing up plays when the game was over to try to get Mike Evans over 1,000 yards last season. He is going to get banged up and injured. He's wearing down. He's losing a step. They added Emeka Egbuka, who is going to be, here's my hot take for this video. Egbuka is going to be the wide receiver 1 on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by the end of the season. That is my hot take for this video. Mike Evans is going to take the backseat. He already is not a volume guy. So let's say Baker's incredible season regresses and he doesn't have a bunch of TDs. Mike Evans' touchdown volume is obviously going to go down. He's already not a big volume guy. The Bucs are not putting Chris Godwin on the PUP list, which means he could be back before week 4. So we have 3 elite wide receivers. I don't want any part of an ambiguous wide receiver room. That's the moral of the story of this entire video. I'd rather stay away. They're saying they're going to give Bucky Irving a bigger workload. Keep me away from 40-year-old old man Mike Evans, who took until the final play last season to get over 1,000 yards. I do not want any part of that. Last 2 guys, one of them was my prized possession last year, and one of them is someone who I've been screaming and shouting to avoid for years now. Number 1, ADP of number 34, Chris Olave. Yes, I know. He was my favorite pick in the entire world last year and was absolutely horrible. And I have woken up. I have come to my senses. I won't make the mistake twice in a row. Chris Olave cannot stay on the field. I think he's a decent football player, but even when he was on the field, he could not separate himself like I thought he would as a clear alpha. Derek Carr was actually a decent, mediocre quarterback. I'll tell you who's not a decent quarterback. Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck. These guys are not decent quarterbacks. They are probably, no matter which one of them starts, they are going to be the worst starter in the NFL. And they don't have any other options. So Chris Olave has no upside. The Saints are going to be terrible. He hasn't proven that he can establish himself as a clear alpha. The quarterbacks are terrible. I don't want any part in this. He can't stay on the field. Keep me away from Chris Olave. I'm not falling into this trap twice in a row. Chris Olave is not someone who you should be drafting. People will say he's a clear number 1 option going at the end of the 6th round. Why not take a shot on him? These are the reasons why. You aren't going to get a payoff pick as ADP wide receiver number 34. He will not be a wide receiver 3 this season. Last guy, I had to mention him in the video because it's right and because I've been right on him more than probably any other player the last several years. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver number 39, currently on the Seattle Seahawks, moving teams. He's old. He's lost a step. He's washed. Sam Darnold proved he could provide for Justin Jefferson last season, but not really for anybody else. Jordan Addison was in and out and in and out. Cooper Kupp is not going to be good this season. They're going to run the ball with Charbonnet and Walker, or they're going to throw the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Those are the two things that they're going to do. Cooper Kupp is completely washed. He had one magical season, and I said he was going to regress 2 years ago, and he did. I said he was not worth a pick last year, and he wasn't. And to be honest, Jackson Smith and Jigba is incredible, you guys. He was on our last video of wide receiver values. I don't want anything to do with Cooper Kupp. You shouldn't either. You want a guy with upside going late in your drafts. Cooper Kupp has no upside. Take someone who could potentially be a top 24 wide receiver. Cooper Kupp is not that guy. So those are the 12 busts, 12 guys you should be avoiding. Here, we're going to run through them one more time. The 12 guys you should be avoiding in fantasy football drafts: CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, and Cooper Kupp. Stay away from these guys. Let me know in the comments below which of these guys you are going to be targeting. Maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear a counter argument. Or if you're going to be listening to me and staying away from these guys. Let me know in the comments below. Please do leave a like and subscribe. It would help me out a lot. We are over 800 subscribers, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the football season this year. So take a few seconds, hit the like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. That's all I got for this video. Next one, we're going to be talking about running backs. If you guys have any other questions, you know where to find me. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, right here in the comments, and YouTube. I respond to literally everything. So do make sure to reach out if you have any questions. Football is so back. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. God bless you.